Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a little bit different. This wasn't quite an RC conversion, but it was an RC upgrade. This is a model that my grandfather built way back in the day. I'm guessing he probably built this in the late 70s, early 80s. He was probably one of the most influential guys that got me into RC. As a little kid growing up, I remember seeing this, not really getting to play with it. But he built model airplanes, and he was a very unique individual. He could build anything. And the joke around town was, if you want Pete to fix something for you, just tell him it can't be fixed. And that drive would make him do whatever. So I will mention he is the inventor of the world's first two-wheel car. So I'll leave a link right up here. You can. I'll try to find. Actually, everything probably predates YouTube. I'll try to leave a link showing some videos of the two-wheel car. It was actually featured in the June of 1978 edition of Popular Mechanics. But my grandpa was a very smart individual. In this model is a replica of a late 1970s Buckeye Super H. This, if you don't recognize what this is, you may not. This is a trenching machine. This wheel would basically, in the real version, this thing would spin and dig dirt out of the ground, dropping it onto this conveyor, and this conveyor would drop the dirt off the side. And this thing in the back is called a shoe, and drainage pipe would come down this shoe and out the back to basically drain agriculture fields, to manage the water in the fields. And that's kind of what I do. We service and sell these types of machines and GPS and all that. But way back in the day, my grandpa was into models. He was into building and fabricating, and so he built this. This was before 3D printers, before CNC, before, the most sophisticated piece of equipment he used would have been a lathe. And so I'll show some more details. So he would have, these rings that this wheel was made on, he would have chucked up basically a plate of aluminum, cut it in a circle, chucked up in the lathe, and turned it down, and then riveted all these, these are what's called buckets. These kind of hoop-looking thing is called a bucket, and he riveted these onto the rim of this. But I kind of want to give an overview of this and what I've done to it to improve it. So all growing up, I always wanted to play with this, but the gears were always stripped out. I remember as a little kid running this like one time. He did an awesome job building this model. There are little imperfections you see when you look close, but it's a really cool model. And in this, he used like an RC toy gears. I mean, just whatever he could find to make an axle, make a differential, and he fabricated all this 100% with probably a cutoff wheel, a torch, welding, soldering, brazing, riveting, using a lathe. But I'll put a picture on the screen now. And this is what the real thing looks like. This is not fully functional. Now this wheel does spin. It spins a little hard. There's little rollers here that it rides on. So it does spin. The conveyor actually does turn. Like he took this leather and cut little strips and made leather on it. So the conveyor does spin. And this conveyor actually, like the real deal, will slide in and out. And so this does slide in and out. Now none of that is RC. But he did make the drives RC. But like I said, it was very crude technology at the time and not a whole lot of available stuff we have today. So when I started doing RC stuff, this is probably my first conversion upgrade I did. Was I found the same differential I used in the Brooder John Deere 9620 RX. I put one of those in here. So I'm going to take the hoods off, and you can kind of see what I've done. And if you can't tell, the scale of this trencher worked out to whatever the scale of the Tonka tires were. And so you can see there's a Tonka tires on the front and the wheels, and he just drilled a hole in it and kind of made an axle. And so let's flip this over for a second. As we flip this over, he basically built this axle himself and steering arm himself. I did upgrade the servo here a couple years ago. This is one thing I want to replace this this front axle. I want to basically get a more modern front axle, but it does work. It pivots as well as steers, so it's pretty cool on what he did there. And this is just a metal piece of wire. You know, we could get a tie rod to do that. But then you can see the differential. So these are those kind of 10th scale crawler differentials, limited slip diff. I use those in the 9620RX. I've got a 540 motor in here. Actually, it's the stock Tamiya motor that was out of one of my Grand Hauler, King Haulers, one of those things. And then a 5-to-1 reduction gearbox to basically get that down, and then one of these drive shafts. So the install of the differential is pretty easy. I just bent up some threaded rod, kind of making U-bolts, and bolted in there. But getting the Tonka wheels to hook to this axle was difficult. Well, actually it wasn't difficult, it was rather fun. I made a hub. So I popped out the OEM or the Tonka hub. I 3D printed a hub in there that hooks, that has the, we'll just take it off real quick. I made a cap in there to close that in so that kind of looks legit. And then there's a nut on there that will hold that onto the differential. Let me get one of my tools and we'll take this off here. So I designed and 3D printed a hub so that these Tonka wheels could hook to a normal axle. So here you can see this is kind of a regular axle with one of these hex hubs on there. And so you actually can see the hub is still kind of stuck in there. So I 3D printed this hub to go in this wheel, and to keep it in there, I just hot glued it. So I'm falling over here. So I made this a real tight fit, pressed it in, you know, just using my hand force to press it in, and then put some hot glue in there to help keep it from spinning or rotating on there. So, and that actually has worked out really well. It gives you a real nice, realistic look of a real wheel with like a reduction drive in it. So something that would look like you would see on a real thing. So that's back on. I'm going to put this nut back on. And so I will leave a link to this STL file. So if you're converting a Tonka toy and you want to put a nice hub in there, and hook to a differential, I will I'll drop the STL files on Thingiverse and leave the link in the description below. So check that out if you want to be able to do a conversion to a Tonka toy. This hub works really well for that. So electronic wise, updated electronics. I have a Fly Sky receiver in here, as well as a Horizon Hobby. Let's see, what is it? It's a Horizon 880 electronic speed controller. These brackets in here was where he had his old school electronics. I mean, the receiver took up like this whole area here. There was a battery pack. Actually, there was 2 battery packs. Yeah. So eliminated all that. 3D printed a little bracket to hold this the motor and the reduction gear onto this frame. And now we'll show you how it works. So let me drop this battery back in here. Let me put this hood back on. And so now myself and my brother, who also, you know, grew up wanting to play with this thing, we can now play with it again. And so it's fun. Actually, my dad as well. My dad tells me that he was so mad at my grandpa, you know, because there was work that needed to get done in the shop, and he spent all kinds of time building this. When my grandpa had a project on his mind, he would go do it. Like I said, with the 2-wheel car, that was another one of those things that once he decided he was going to build a 2-wheel car, he figured out how to do it, and away it went. So I got a switch right in behind here. So I'll turn the switch on, and here's my receiver over here. And so we got steering left, right, move some tools out of the way here, and now we can drive this thing. So that 5-to-1 reduction in there with that 540 motor, with that differential, just does an excellent job controlling this. I got good speed when I'm out on the ground. driving around with this, and it's just fun. So this is something that, as I was a little kid growing up, always thought was the coolest thing in the world. And then as an adult, I get to bring it back to life. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I know this is not the typical Brooder stuff, but it's construction toys and it's RC, so it's fun. So hey, you guys have a good evening, and yeah, take it easy.